Hey guys, and welcome to video 2 of week 10. So basically, what I'm going to be talking about in this video, I know I said in the last video we might be talking about roles, but in this video we're going to be talking about database users, which corresponds to some of the issues that I had in the previous video toward the end, logging in using our login ID, John Doe. And the reason that I ran into issues with that was because I forgot to add a database user corresponding to John Doe. And so basically a database user is separate from a login ID in that basically a login ID is basically an authentication into the system, right? A database user is maintained by each individual database, and it corresponds to who is allowed to access that database. And so, if we come back to what we were doing before, so we've created two login IDs, right? So now we need to create database users for them. And so let me add one note here for you guys that are going to just maybe pull the notes up. So basically, in order to create a database user, we are going to use the create user statement. And if we want to, so basically, we can automatically map to a login ID, or we can have a database username separate from the login name. And to do this, we'll use the login clause, which I'll talk about in a second. So basically the the gist of this is actually really simple, right? So we can just do create user John Doe, run it. Our command completes successfully. I'll reopen this and we should be able to SQL Server Management Studio. Okay, why is the login failing still? That is the right password, right? That's odd. So, basically this will create a database user with the same name as a login ID. Here we can create a database user for a particular login. For login. And so we can create database users for both SQL Server authentication and Windows authentication. Login. And obviously we can specify and then obviously we can do the same thing for create user. Create user username for login username. So we're going to try this again and see if I can auth in, because I'm kind of at a loss as to why I can't auth in. I suppose I could just log in or disconnect too instead of closing and reopening, but I just want to see SQL Server authentication. Username PASSWORD1234. Interesting. Yeah, that's weird that it won't let me log in even though I created the user, and I know the user exists. So anyway, a couple other things I want to talk about real quick before we end the video here. Is so for login IDs and user IDs, we can. I'm just pulling my notes back up here. We can alter and drop users or logins. So we can do, let me pull up here. We could do alter login, username. So like if we wanted to change a password, we do alter alter login username. With password equals, I don't know, some random string, character string. Let me see. We can also do alter login. And then basically, when we do these alter statements, we can change, our default database, our default language, things like that. So like with the Windows one, all we can really do is we can disable or we can enable, or we can do with, which will allow us to change like our password and stuff like that. So that's altering logins. We're not going to worry too much about that. And then we'll do, if we want to drop, we can just do drop login name. And we can do the same thing with database users. As soon as I can pull that part up in my notes again. So we can do alter user. Oh, I'm sorry. We want to do alter user with name equals new username. So we can like change the username, or we can do with. We won't worry about that. And then obviously, as with pretty much anything, we can also drop a database user using just drop username. So that is it on database users. So in the next video, we're going to talk about we're going to talk about permissions, and then we're going to talk about roles, I believe. Yeah, we'll talk about permissions and we'll talk about roles. All right, we will catch you in the next video.